Please welcome to the stage PGA of America professional, David Orr.
Thank you, Scott. What a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. How's everybody doing this morning? There's Chuck. Good morning. How are you? Okay, so I did not realize how beautiful Texas is. I mean, it's got all kinds of terrain, all kinds of trees, but I've never been here. This is an amazing place. How many of you have heard me speak before? We got a few here? Gotcha. Okay, so this is my disclaimer. So Scott Archer didn't know what he was getting into when he asked me to speak. So I have bipolar disorder, so if I seem like my tone goes up and down and I seem like I'm on a tangent, that's because that's what I deal with, okay? But I am heavily medicated this morning, so you're lucky. And I usually put that out there because a lot of people don't know me, but that's one thing I want you to know about me. And I look at it as a gift, because it allows me to do certain things that some people can't do, but it's also, on the other end, it can be detrimental. So like I said, if you hear my tone go up, I'll try not to swear. I have been known to drop a few F-bombs, but I know this is a professional meeting and we're being videotaped, so I'll try to behave. Okay, so quick question. How many people in here give putting lessons? Oh, wow, that's really good. Very good. Excellent. What's interesting is the first question I usually get, doesn't matter whether it's an amateur golfer or a tour player, they always ask me, well, should I use the line on the ball or not? And it's amusing to me because if you can first of all set the line up straight, that's the first thing, and then the second thing, does it look straight to you, then by all means use it. Okay, but if there is a conflict between where you've aimed that ball and how it looks to you, I would not use it. Is that a pretty simple answer? Okay, so I wanted to get that one right off the bat because I know some of you are going to raise your hands. What do you think about line on the ball? So I just answered it, okay? Okay, so those of you that have listened to me speak before, I rarely follow the PowerPoint. Okay, so I will skip some slides, okay, and they've only given me an hour and 15 minutes to speak. As Alan Hoddy knows, I could speak on one slide for a week. So if I seem like I'm rushing, just let me know a little bit. Oh, this is distracting, I got a clock. So I still got an hour and 9 minutes. Okay, good. Okay. All right, so I've been teaching golf for 31 years. I've been specializing in putting for 17 years. And just a quick backstory, I got into coaching putting because I was really bad at it. During my playing career, played Division III golf, played the mini tours for 5 years, and I was a really good ball striker, great golf swing, hit it really above average length for my size. I hit the ball straight by curving it. Does anybody understand that concept? If you asked me to hit it straight, it went in the woods. If you asked me to draw it or fade it, I would hit it the fairway or hit the green. So that was a generation or two ago. Okay, but great ball striker. Worked the ball very nicely, but putting was an enigma. I was one of those people that would change the putter, change the grip on the putter, change my grip, change my stance, change my backswing, change my downswing. And the real problem wasn't any of those things. The real problem was my entire ecosystem was constantly in a state of disarray. And I'm going to kind of talk about that a little bit today. That makes sense? So obviously, our reputation as a coach is really based on the quality of the player that you work with. I mean, I wouldn't be standing here if Justin Rose didn't win the US Open in 2013. So for him, I'm very grateful. I worked for Justin on and off in different roles for 7 years, putting coach, short game, wedge. Sean Foley and I used to joke, full swing up to an 8-iron, then he takes over. I've been worked with Justin Rose, Suzanne Pedersen, Paul Casey, Hunter Mahan. I've been very fortunate to learn from these players. That's the interesting part about it, is how much do we learn from the people that we're teaching. They're paying us to learn, right? But we're getting to learn and get paid for it. So that's pretty interesting. So, okay, so in 2014, I was asked to go down to Orange County National at the time. Core Golf Academy was run by Sean Foley and a few other people. And we're sitting in a room, and I was there to train the staff on putting. And they said, well, we want to teach like you. What's your system? Can you teach us to teach like you? And I'm thinking about this. They're not bipolar. I don't even know what the hell I teach, because I don't teach a system, I teach the person in front of me. Write that down. Write that down. That's one of my famous sayings, write it down. Okay, when I show up to a lesson, I have no pre-planned idea of what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm just a chef. I don't have a recipe, I just make stuff. So what came of it was, we said, okay, we had the 13 staff members. We had this big whiteboard. And my friend Paul Doolin, who's a mental coach, I said, Paul, let's just make some like columns. And whatever I'm doing in the lesson, just mark under which column I'm doing. So the first column was mental skills, right? So does this player run the proper processes and routines? Because process and routine are interrelated, but they're different things. So let me give you an example. What are we processing in a putt? We're processing how long the putt is. The brain's got to input that, right? Is it uphill or downhill? What's the slope? What's the break direction? Our brain is processing that through sight, right? Or through association or feel. But we have to have an input and then an output. Does it make sense? So our brain is processing these things. Putting skills. Can you read a green? Okay, can you read at least the break direction correctly throughout an entire round of golf? I would write that down. Can you get the break direction correct? I didn't say break amount, I said break direction. Can you get the break direction correct through an entire round of golf? Rosie would say to me, oh, fuck all, mate, because I can go weeks. There's my first F word. But that was Rosie, not me. Right? Okay, so break direction, you should be able to use that skill, and that skill must travel. Meaning I should be able to read not just my home course's greens or the practice green at my home course, but everywhere I go. The skill of green reading must travel. Write that down. It must travel. You don't have the skill. If you can't read the green here in Texas, in North Carolina, California, Canada, Scotland, Germany, Asia, if you can't read greens all throughout the world, you don't have the skill of green reading. How many aim pointers do we have? How many aim pointers? None in Texas? 2, 3? Well, I got to talk to Mark Sweeney. Because here's the gist of aim point, right? You're feeling the slope with your feet, yes? Okay? And if one foot's higher than the other, correct? High versus low. Okay, that's giving you the break direction. Now, a lot of you don't know this, but I'm a recreational ski racer. So we're judging slope at every angle to the slope. We can feel in our skis and our body that one side's lower, higher or lower. Does that make sense? So aim point is a useful tool to at least feel the break direction. And then if you get good at judging the slope percentage, that's the fingers. And then the arm bend is the stimp, and then the fingers relative to the holes, just like finger plumb bobbing. That's what it is. It's finger plumb bobbing. Okay? So to me, aim point is a very useful tool to expedite the process. You can tell when a player does not know how to do aim point, they look like this. Exactly. Have you seen it on tour? I can tell the guys on tour that don't know aim point. This is what aim point should look like. How long did that take? Because you should be feeling it when we're moving along the slope. Not with the feet, but through the feet. Not with the skis, but through the skis. Did you hear the difference in the wordplay on that? Not with the feet, but through the feet. Just like us skiers, that's what we do. We feel the mountain through our skis, through our boots, through our feet, through our body. As I'm moving at 45 miles an hour to maybe 60 miles an hour if I wasn't in a course. In a course, we're about 35 to 45 miles an hour, and I'm feeling the slope the whole way. It's through the feet, not with the feet. Write that down. Okay, so aim point, very useful tool. You need to be able to adapt and adjust to the speed of the greens very quickly. Okay, how many of you does it take a couple rounds to get used to the speed of the greens when you're in a new course? Yeah, it should only take you a few putts. How about that? Brad Faxon's one of my best friends, not best friends, good friends. Best friends are something that's a long time. Good friends is spending some quality time together. Brad Faxon is a good friend of mine. He says that he can get used to the speed of the greens within just a few putts. Because what he does is he'll hit three 30-footers downhill to see how fast the green is, three 30-footers uphill to see how slow the green is, three 30-footers left to right to see how much sidewards movement there is, and three 30-footers right to left to see how much sideways movement there is. Pretty interesting, isn't it? How many of you do that? But if you just learn to watch the ball roll, your brain will get used to the effective stimp very quickly. Okay? All right, stroke fundamentals. There are certain fundamentals in the putting stroke for your stroke to be efficient or functional. Your stroke does not need to be perfect. We know that, right? Did Crenshaw, I know we're in the land of Crenshaw and Kite, yes? Did Crenshaw really have that good of a stroke? Or was he a pretty boy with a great grip, great setup, good flow, but didn't he have a little loop in the transition, a little out of plane loop in the transition? Oh, how dare you criticize Ben Crenshaw's stroke in his hometown. Did he not have a little loop shift in his stroke? He did, but he putted lights out, one of the best putters of all time, agreed? Okay, does Billy Mayfair, you guys remember Billy Mayfair? He didn't have a great stroke and he putted well. But the stroke has to be functional. What does that mean? Yeah, relatively the same place, assuming they set up in a good place. But we have to set up somewhere, correct? And we're aiming somewhere, agreed? And we have to start the ball in a certain direction. In the club face, believe it or not, some experts argue it's 83% of ball's direction. Some say 90%, some say 92%, some say 95%. But the ball's starting predominantly in the direction of the club face. So whether they're hooking it, slicing it, perfectly in plane, they're returning the face somewhat relatively square. Make sense? Yeah. And then they're hitting it somewhere on the face consistently. Surprisingly, most tour players, the impact spot on the face is about a millimeter or two toward the toe. Does anybody know why that is? Okay, well, the putter was on the grounded address. Yes, 0 millimeters, agreed. And at impact, the putter is 5 to 8 millimeters off the ground. What happened to the radius of the stroke? The radius of the stroke shortened. Or if you didn't shorten it, you had to pull back and up so that you don't hit the ground. So just marinate on that one for a little bit. Because if you returned it back to where it was, you'd be stubbing the ground. Because where was the putter address? On the ground. That's also why there's a rise angle The putter was on the ground at address, it's off the ground at impact. The putter had to lift, it had to rise. Okay? All right, so cool. So there are some stroke fundamentals, yes? And then we're dealing with your putter. How many people have blades in here? Blade putters. Okay, how many people have mallets? What does the industry only produce now? Big fat mallets, big fat grips, putters that are overweight. Agreed? Does anybody have their same putter they've had since they were a junior golfer? Good for you. What kind is it? 8802. I wonder why. We're in the land of what? Crenshaw and Kite, right? Crenshaw had a 8802 and Kite had a Bullseye. Those two cats right there had two of the 5 best designs ever. An 8802 and a Bullseye are unbelievable putter designs. If you know anything about putter design at all, they're unbelievable designs, yet nobody makes them and nobody sells them. Interesting. But your putter can help you and it can hurt you. Okay, if a putter's too heavy, it's hard to get some takeaway force or acceleration and takeaway. It's also difficult to have some transition. So you should be fitting the putter weight to a player's acceleration profile in the backswing and their acceleration profile in the transition. Not just, oh, heavy feels good. I don't know about you, but if you gain 30 pounds, do you feel good? Okay, but can you also be too light? Yes, you can. So the weighting of that putter, the head weight, the shaft weight, the grip weight, and the tape, the distribution of that mass along the radius of the club, and I look at the putter as a third arm, write that down. I look at the putter as a third arm. Mac O'Grady, who was my mentor, taught me that the putter is like a third arm. Just like your pen is a third arm. Makes sense? Or your guitar pick, or your violin bow, it's a third arm. Does it make sense? He hasn't even flipped one slide yet, has he? Are you okay with that? All right, good. Yeah, so the putter acts as a third arm, and I've always fitted putters based off of the Vitruvian man. So what are my arms? Is this a diameter of a circle? Yes. So we're dealing with circular mechanics in putting. So that's what you're fitting for. A lot of times you're fitting for angular motion. You're fitting for joint rotation. So the putter is the third arm. You're fitting that third arm to the movements of the other 2 arms. Write that down. Is there a way to measure that? Not at this point, there isn't. It's too complicated. So that's where the artistry of putter fitting comes in. Generating speed, one of my favorite subjects. Most people we talk about shoulder-driven stroke, right? Where the shoulders glide back on top of a turning and tilting rib cage. How many people actually do that? Very few. Putting with the left arm, Stockton style. Putting with the trail arm, Tiger style. Putting with both arms, Aaron Badley style. Right? Putting with the rib cage, the torso, Hunter Mahan. That's different than shoulder movements. Can you see the shoulder movement versus the rib cage movement? Did you just see that? Did you see the shoulder movement versus the rib cage movement? Did they look different? Very good. So that's one of my favorite subjects, how do players generate speed? Because how they generate speed is how they move, how they coordinate the movement. And that's what produces the Sam Putt Lab report. Because Sam Putt Lab's only measuring what? The putter. Capto's only measuring the putter. Okay? I was very fortunate to run into Dr. Rob Neal 10 years ago, and we actually measured the wrists and the forearms and the elbows and the upper arms and the shoulder joints and the torso. And it was there that I realized that nobody stroked it the same. Write that down. Nobody moved the same. Nobody set up exactly the same. Matter of fact, a tour player might have 44 degrees of forward bend at the torso on one putt, 45 on the next, 43 on the next, 44, 45, 45, 44. There's some variability, but it's small. There's no such thing as perfect. And nobody does it exactly the same. So if nobody does it exactly the same, how come? Because we're all built the same. Or different, excuse me. We're all built different. Some people have long arms. Some people have short arms. Some people have a long upper arm. Some people have more symmetrical arms. Some people have a long torso. Some people have a short torso. We're built differently. We move differently. Does that make sense? Okay, managing direction. Managing direction. Grandpa's gun. How many of you tend to aim a little right and then pull it back online? Yeah, that's the cool kids. The cool kids aim right and pull it back online. Tiger Woods, Luke Donald, Brad Faxon, David Orr. Just kidding. Okay, but the people that come to see me that are really like struggling with putting tend to have a push bias. They tend to aim a little left, have to either fan it in the backswing. Stan Utley aims 2.5 degrees left. With the shaft lofted 2.5 degrees, he has to fan it in the backswing. Okay? Or you'll have to block it through impact, right? So wouldn't it be great, Alan, if everybody could aim the putter square and return the face square with minimal face change? That would make my job very easy. Make sense? And we'll get into that a little bit more. And then finally, movement strategies. Do I think things move in a straight line? There are things that feel to the player that move straight back, straight through. But I promise you, the club head is always arcing. Club head's always arcing. The face is always rotating unless you're counter-rotating it. So to keep the face square, you actually have to counter-rotate, and I'll give you the 4 places that you counter-rotate. So we're going to keep the face square. Everybody got that? We have to first counter-rotate by head movement toward the target. So my body's turning, my torso's tilting. Tilting would be a counter rotation. Write that down. I think I just gave you, because this is going to apply to full swing. So the torso's turning. If I was turning in forward bend, I'd look like this, yes? So if I turn and I tilt and I extend, I look like I'm a little more centered, yes? Yeah. So the tilt is the counter rotation. Got it? Upper arm abduction, where the upper arm is moving away from the torso, like this, or elevating, that blocks rotation. Because you're going to have some external rotation, which would do what to the face? Open it. Abduction would do what? Keep it from doing that. Okay. Trail arm pronation in the backswing. That's going to counter-rotate it. Lead forearm supination, that's going to counter-rotate it. Got it? And then we said the putter was a third arm, yes? So anybody see the lab putters, the lab golf putters that no torque? Well, you put that putter in there and it won't open. But it'll close real easy. Make sense? So there's 4 places that you can counter-rotate really quickly. Torso what? Everybody say it. Torso tilt, shoulder abduction, forearm pronation and supination, and the putter's torque properties. How about that? That's how you would keep it square. So if I did all 4 of those, I'll have to do this with my trail arm. That looks pretty darn square to me. Okay, and then what do I got to do on the downswing? I got to start going back the other way. So if I did all of those things, I can make this putter go straight back, straight through in a vertical arc with the face staying square. It is the most difficult pattern to manage for the brain. Write that down. You can do it. I've seen some players do it pretty well. But it is very difficult. You got a lot of rotation and counter rotations taking place. So movement strategy. What would be another thing that might feel like move straight? If the shaft were a pencil, you're going to love this. Is the shaft a straight line? At an angle, yes? The shaft itself. So the shaft can serve as a proxy to the club head. I think players don't feel the path of the club head, which is an arc. So the path is ever changing. James Lights, my good friend. Okay? So the putter head's moving in a three-dimensional arc, yes? So they don't know where the path is, but they do know where the swing direction is. And if the shaft is a proxy to the club head, they can feel, if this were a pencil, whether they're tracing in to out, out to in, or tracing on line. Little golfing machine principle is the straight lines pointing at a straight line, always, as if there were a laser coming out. So that's why some players feel like the stroke is straight, because the shaft's tracking straight. Club head's arcing. Club face is rotating as a result. Let's write that down. Ready? Shaft is tracking. Shaft is tracking. Club head is arcing. And as a result of that rotation radius, the face is opening without me twisting it open. Because we're dealing with the mechanics of a circle. Everybody got that? Pretty cool. Okay, so now I think I'm going to change slides. How long? What time is it? How long was it before I hit my first slide? Anybody? You can talk. 30 minutes before I even hit the first slide. Wow. It means I got 30 minutes to go through this entire presentation. So, there's an example of my bipolar behavior. Felt like we were on this tangent that was so far off course that we came right back to where we need to be. So this is just a slide for people that don't know any of my background. I've been very fortunate to work with a U.S. Open champion. Just like Chuck worked with Payne. Changed your life, didn't it? Absolutely. U.S. Mid-Amateur champion, 2 U.S. Amateur champions. Wow, right? Like sometimes I pinch myself. Little kid from upstate New York. Play golf 4 months a year. Division III golf. Just sit there and go. Like when you really look back on your career and you go, wow, right? Because it just happens so fast. 3 Ryder Cup players, 2 Solheim Cup players, a former world #1. 3 players in the top 25. I stopped worrying about proving myself probably about 5 years ago. You're either going to like what I have to say or you're not. You're either going to agree with me or you're not, and I don't care. But I am going to listen to your opinion. Because when I listen to your opinion, it makes me think. And it lets me marinate on what you're trying to tell me. Does that make sense? So I'm just very fortunate to have a lot of great players work with me. I'm kind of like a barber rather than a beautician. Being a putting coach, there's a lot of turnover. Because putting is different than full swing. Okay, putting is kind of like suicide watch. Makes sense? And if they're not performing, they'll go to another putting coach next week. They'll change their putter, they'll change their grip. You remember that? Whereas a full swing coach, it's more like a beautician. They always go to them, they've always gotten their hair cut or done by their beautician. Does that make sense? They'll even wait to get home to get a haircut. But putting's not that way. That's full swing. Okay. I want you to realize that putting is a holistic approach. It's like a big ecosystem. What icon is in the middle of that honeycomb? The mental skills. Yeah, the mental skills. See, what's funny, the irony of this, you have Dr. Rick Sessinghaus speaking after me. For some of you, you think, oh, these are 2 separate presentations. No, they're not. They're actually all one. So it's interesting because I'm actually a member of Dr. Rick's Flow Code. I'm a member of the Flow Code Golf. I think you should too. Write that down. If you're serious about coaching, you need to be a member of Flow Code. And he didn't slip me a 20 in the back to say something about that. And I think Rick's a member of my website, Flat Stick Academy. Or at least he was at one point. Okay, so remember I was down at Orange County National and wanting to teach, so we went through a lesson and we figured out what I was teaching during the lesson might be a couple of these things or 3 of these things, right? But it became my organizational chart in my head. And believe it or not, I took about 9 months off from teaching the public, traveling with Justin Rose, and when I came back, my first lesson, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. Has anybody ever taken some time off from teaching and then come back and do it, and then you're like, you know, where do I start? I literally start every lesson off on the left and just work my way to the right. Now that doesn't mean this player is going to get all 7 things, but it helps me stay organized in my thinking, because being bipolar, you can see that I am not organized. I'm not organized in a linear fashion. Have we talked about iPhones and Samsungs yet? Or PCs? How many people in here own a Samsung? Texas is a pretty cool state. You can buy firearms, like I got a Staccato. Does anybody know what a Staccato is? Does anybody know that the original place was like how far away? Like less than an hour? Yeah, you can buy guns here. Everybody uses iPhone. I'm going to say that in a future speech, by the way. So no Samsung people here. So here's what it is. PC. Does anybody struggle flipping from PC to iOS? Like when you're working on it? You do? I do too. Because it's the way I think. It's an operating system. You know, PC is like, you've got these directories, you've got these folders, you've got these files. It's like so linear. It's like going to the grocery store with a list. And this is how people are trying to putt. They're trying to go, okay, read the putt, aim. Aim putter, take stance, take grip, look target one more time, triangle back, take it back short, accelerate, follow through. Like they've got this narrative running like a PC. And what happens when you get too many programs running at one time, it says not responding. Well, that's exactly what's happening when you're going through the grocery list of trying to run putting as if it's a checklist. Man, if my pilot that's flying back this afternoon was literally manually going through the checklist, we would never take off. Yes? Okay, now, we're using icons here, right? Like my kids call them glyphs, like hieroglyphic, you know, the pictures say 1,000 words, yes? Okay, so what's funny, I gave my mom an iPhone. And I asked my mom, well, I turned mine off. I asked my mom to make a phone call. She goes, how do you do that? What do? You hit the icon that looks like a what? If you want to take a picture, hit the icon that looks like a camera. So it took her a really long time to operate a very simple system. You follow me? Putting is supposed to be simple. Then if it were so simple, why are the vast majority of golfers struggling with it? Okay, so I'm going to skip a few things. This is what I want you to remember. Keep in mind, this is always an inside job, both mentally, emotionally, and neurologically. Write that down. This is an inside job. Don't think that your mental skills are separate, because you're an idiot if you think that way. Okay? So my concept, so some people's concept is the putter moves straight back and straight through. Agreed? Can everybody see me? So some people's concept is putter moves straight back and straight through. Why is my body swaying? Why is my body swaying? Their concept is the driver behind their behavior. Do you see it? And then you say, well, don't sway your hips. You know, keep your head still, don't move your hips. And then they're going like this. Okay, so you got to understand is that this is tied together, their concept. Now here's another one, don't laugh. How many people got those training aids that have the arc on the ground. Well, some people think the arc is on the ground. And then you tell them, don't sway your head forward. So a lot of the behaviors that you're seeing are driven by concepts. Poor concepts. Write that down. Thank you. Nice book. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but the Jimmies and the Joes. Who was the football coach that said that? You're in Texas, you better know this answer. No, Mac Brown's not even close to the best coach in Texas ever. Are you kidding me? He can't even win at North Carolina. He's horrible. Nice guy, though. Darrell Royal. Is it Darrell Royal? Yeah. It's the Jimmies and the Joes, not the X's and the O's. It's that in putting. If you were to watch Tiger Woods putt, which I have, in a practice round at the British Open in 2013, Muirfield, you watch Rosie putt, you watch Suzanne putt, you watch Hunter putt. They're thoroughbreds. When you watch Mr. and Mrs. Haverkamp putt, they're not thoroughbreds. They will never be, because they mentally don't have the skills and emotionally don't have the skills to putt at a high level. Did you hear what I just said? I mean, you're talking about people that can start a ball within less than a half a degree consistently. And then you got Mr. Haverkamp pulling the first one because he's guiding. Okay, so what does guiding look like? Guiding is redirecting the horizontal swing plane. Somebody asked me, what do you mean by guiding? What's guiding? Okay, do you see this circle? Yes, everybody see this? Okay, do you see me shift it? Did you see me shift the circle? That's changing the direction of the swing plane because I'm trying to help the ball go where? Down the line. So guiding is the number one flaw, habit of bad putters. Guiding is. It leads to pulls. Because what am I shifting? The horizontal swing plane. So it starts with the eyes. See how my eyes are shifting left? What follows my eyes, Chuck? My head rotation. What follows my head rotation is torso turn. What follows torso turn is pelvic turn. What follows that is femur rotation. What follows that is trail arm, internal rotation, and elbow throw. And now I am following the ball with the club head. Has anybody ever seen that? Yeah. It's the first habit and behavior of poor putters. The Joes. Okay? Now, what happens after you've pulled a few? Ah, yes, we believe this is a cricket paddle. Does anybody know anything about a cricket paddle or a bat? It's flat on one side, so they think the face runs all the way up the third arm into the lead arm, and they start doing what with the face? They're playing cricket. Yes? Write that down. So steering's like playing cricket. It's a rotational plane shift where the face plane is rotating more vertical. Remember the horizontal swing plane and guiding is shifted where? Left. The face putt plane is rotated more vertical. You're playing cricket. So now you've got this habit of guiding, missing it where? Left, and steering it, missing it right. What are you going to start doing to the hand speed coming into impact? You're going to quit applying force. So you start decelerating the hand speed. I just did all three of them at the same time. Did you see it? Where's the guiding coming from? Where's the steering coming from? And the quitting. Ready? Yeah, so now quitting, applying force at the hand speed, is the third habit and behavior. You got these written down? Now, the fourth one is I get a tip from my playing partners. Hey, keep your head still. Or better yet, make sure you take it back short, accelerate, and follow through. So now I take it back, short, accelerate, and follow through. Yes? Let's do it again, Chuck. Ready? Slow motion. Ready? Guide, steer, quit, follow through. It does, doesn't it? So, hijacking the downswing, write that down. Hijacking the downswing with a thought or a verbal phrase. Then, I don't like this putter anymore. I need a new one. Can I get my old 8802? But I think I'm going to put a Super Stroke 5.0 on my 8802. Start to see where we're going now? Now we're tinkering, yes? We're tinkering. So tinkering is the fifth habit and behavior of the Joes. Okay, and this can be Johnny Joe, this can be Billy Joe, it could be Janie Joe, doesn't matter. Okay? All right, now, I've missed a 3-foot putt. Due to what?
Guiding, blocking, decelerating.
Yeah. So now I'm going to start to experience what's called anticipatory anxiety. Write that down. Anticipatory anxiety. I'm going to anticipate the outcome before I even executed the stroke. I'm getting some bobbleheads now. You guys are starting to see the picture here, aren't you? Yep. And then I'm going to start yipping, which is the 7th one. Then I'm going to start having rotational yips, acceleration yips, trembling on the path. You guys, yeah, I scripted this thing perfectly, didn't I? Who needs a slideshow for this? Okay? But this is the spiral staircase, right? Draw a spiral staircase. It has 7 steps to it. And this is why your players are in basically the inferno of putting. Ultimately it starts with habits and behaviors. That's what my job is, to change habits and behaviors. Okay? Now some of you might have actually looked at the slide up here rather than looking at me, and that's fine. Obviously, great putters have a great attitude, but they have a growth mindset. Poor putters tend to have a poor attitude, I see why, and a fixed mindset. Well, I'll always be a bad putter, right? The question is, can you go from being a bad putter, like the ones on the right? I used to check all the boxes on the right, and probably hardly any on the left. And then I got to know Brad Faxon, and he shared so much with me over the phone, in person. He almost checked every box on the left. That makes sense? And the key ones here are being able to direct your attention. Are you distracted when you're putting? Are you distracted by these thoughts and these phrases? Or is your attention directed? Are you aware of what's going on? Are you immersed into what you're doing? And then finally, to the one that I had the hardest thing to do was to be, I could have played the tour, it's true. My golf swing was good enough. Phil Ritson, remember Phil? Phil was my coach before I got into the golfing machine. And he said, man, you hit it better than Keith Clearwater. But I emotionally couldn't handle it. Does it make sense? Like, I now look back on my career, yeah, I had a great golf swing, hit it good, but I emotionally could not handle the moment. That's big boy pants right there, isn't it? How many of you could have made it on the tour? Probably quite a few, right? How many? Come on, raise your hand. It's okay. Could you emotionally have handled it, though, is the question. Could you handle the lifestyle? Could you handle being married and having kids being on the tour? Could you have handled the press being in your face? Could you handle it? That's the question you have to be honest with yourself about. I mentally knew what to do, but my emotions overcame. I could not regulate my emotion. Now everybody knows why. Bipolar disorder. I wasn't on medication. What are you talking about? I'm crazy one moment, psycho. Right? I'm a psycho, and then I'm just like, want to kill myself. It's just like this. Yeah, so my scorecard, this is no lie. New York State Michelob Open qualifier. playing with the New York State amateur champion. I shoot 3 under on the front side, and I birdied number 9. Got it? So I get on the 10th tee, rifle it right down the fairway. Got it? Hits the sprinkler head. Bounces over a trap and into the woods. I walk in there like this, and look at it. Boom. Uh-oh. Ball moved 1 foot under a tree. What should I have done? Taken unplayable. Then I get to take unplayable again anyway. 14 strokes later, I signed for a 14 on hole 10. This is not a lie. Most stories are lies. This one's true, down to the detail. I get up on the 11th hole. It's 208 yards. So this is 208 yards in 1990. Got it? So I take my little 4-iron and I hit it in there 2 feet, make birdie, make it 2. I think I shot 80 with a 14 on my scorecard. What's the most embarrassing thing is back then we had to read our scores to the scorer. So I'm going 3, 4, 4, 3, 5, 4, 4, 3, 14, 2, 4, 3. Yeah. I was the guy, and there might be some gals in here too, that I could never play 18 holes. I've shot 29 and never followed it up with under par. I've shot 30 twice. Can't tell you how many times I shot 31. But I've never in my lifetime, no, excuse me, that's a lie. Got one time, playing on a course rating of 76 in Pinehurst National. It's number 9 now, I think. From the very tips, I shot 67 with a bogey on 5, course rating 76. Guess who held the course record? Jack Nicklaus, so they weren't going to give it to me. But that was the only time I'd had 2 sides that were under par. So I just never could play 18 because I emotionally could not handle it. Does that make sense? How much time we got? 30. You gave me an extra 30? Maybe we were just in a state of flow there for about 15 minutes and time just kind of stood still. Yes? Anybody ever experience that? That's why a ski race, because you're instantly in flow. Okay, so the 6-pack. Attitude and mindset, emotional regulation, attention awareness, visual imagery, execution with intention, and your narrative. You've got to become a master storyteller. You have to tell your own story. You coming in after you missed one on 18 and your buddies go, you missed a short one. Yeah, I suck. You know, you're not helping. It's trauma management. You've got to learn to manage your trauma through your narrative. Yes, you did miss it. So when I miss one, I say either pulled it or pushed it, mishit it, misread it, or hit it too hard or too soft. That's it. That's my narrative. Because I know that you must protect the house. You have to protect the house from, most of all, guess who you got to protect it from? Yourself. Don't let your playing partners assist you. And the caddies are the worst on the tour. You're not helping. I know he's negative 2.5 strokes gained putting, all on holes number 6 and number 8, because he missed the 3-footer on 6 and he missed the 5-footer on 8 because he missed the 3-footer on 6. Till you start to see that connection that he perceived that 3-footer as a threat. Yes, he misses a 3-footer, it's now a rattlesnake. Yes? Okay, what do most people do when they see a rattlesnake? You guys know around here. You step back, right? You avoid. But what's a snake handler do? He does his job. See, that's how you got to be as a putter. You got to be like a person that handles snakes. You know you're going to get bit. You've gotten bit how many times before? You still go in there and do your job. Has anybody ever seen a snake handler go in and grab a rattlesnake? Anybody in here ever grab a rattlesnake? Anybody? There's got to be somebody. You did? What'd you do to him?
We did it with Luke. I was in college. We went to O'Keene for the rattlesnake hunt every year. In the spring, right when they were waking up, so they were sleepy snakes. And we had contests who caught the most, who weighed how much we had.
Unbelievable.
Snake jump.
Unbelievable. Of course you would be the guy. Of everybody in here, you'd be that guy. We had snake. Oh, that's unbelievable. Okay. Did you hear the story, though? It was awesome, wasn't it? Yeah? Okay. All right, let's talk about why players struggle with putting. They just don't have the skill set. Write it down. You don't have the skill set. You've got to be able to read greens everywhere you go. You've got to adapt and adjust to the effective stimp of the green. So the stimp is the average. Write that down, the stimp. Oh, these are rolling at 11. No, that's an 11 is the average stimp. It's the average distance it takes for friction to slow the ball down over 11 feet. Coming off of a stimp meter, which is rolling at a 20-degree angle off of a notch that bounces 3 times. Did you hear what I just said? When the ball comes off the stimp meter, it bounces 3 times. Did you hear what I just said? When it comes off the stimp meter, it bounces 3 times. And the RPMs slow down. Versus coming off the perfect putter, it bounces maybe once. And the RPMs are about 140 RPMs more than coming off the stimp meter. There's a little candy for you. Stimp meter is not a good way to measure green speed. How about that? But let's just say we're on a 3% slope. I can't remember the exact numbers, but the effective stimp would be how fast this particular putt plays. So it's like rolling maybe at 18, 21 downhill, and maybe only 7 or 8 uphill. That difference, that stimp differential, is why people struggle with putting. Because you're hitting a 30-footer, not by taking it back 18 inches and through 18 inches and the ball goes 30 feet, which is just pre-K to me. Okay? That 30-footer might be rolling at an 8 stimp. The other 30-footer is rolling at a 21 stimp or 15 stimp or whatever, depending on the angle to the slope. Every angle to the slope has a different effective stimp. This is why putting's hard. Putting's simple if the green were level, because every putt would be the right distance and be straight. There'd be no curve. So, and then starting the ball in line, which is the most frustrating in putting. I got this putter. I should be able to hit it on the line. Well, you'd be surprised. Tour players struggle with that too, but they happen to be better at it. And then aim. Why is aim last? Aim is last because it's the byproduct of predicting the break direction and the break amount, judging the distance and the speed, choosing a line based off of that, right? It could be an aggressive line, an optimal line, or a high line. Oh, I love that skiing. Gosh, I love that. And then where do I aim? So aim is a byproduct of the previous skills. That makes sense? And it is also a fundamental in the, whoops, how do I go back? Red? Yeah. So here we go. Here we go. Sound like Dak Prescott, right? Here we go, right? Whoever came up with that. We got Cowboy fans here? Better have Cowboy fans here. Okay, so what's the skill set? I have to be able to predict break direction. All the blue ones you better be able to do, because if you can't, go take up tennis or pickleball. That might be good for you, pickleball, right? So if you can't do the blue ones, you might as well go play pickleball. Okay, because this is what's required. You got to know which way it's going. You got to know how far it is. You got to choose a decent line, and you got to be aiming somewhere. Make sense? The black ones are the complex skill. All right, so the blue ones are the basic skill, and the black ones are the complex skill. Take a moment if you want to take a snapshot of that, because this is like an iPhone right here. This is iPhone right here. This is how the brain processes. All right, so take a snap of that. All right, cool. Now, AIM is like a dual agent. AIM's like a spy. It's like a Russian spy and an American spy all wrapped into one. AIM is like a skill, yes, but it's also part of the stroke fundamentals. I got to be aiming somewhere. Okay, so Grandpa's gun shoots to the left. Grandpa's gun shoots left. Where do we start aiming? Yeah, that's called a pull bias. Grandpa's gun shoots to the right. Where do I start aiming? To the left. Okay, now, wouldn't it be great if Grandpa's gun was zeroed in? Right? It shoots where it's looking. That's called a staccato. Does anybody know that? I'm surprised you don't know what a staccato is. You know what a staccato is? I just got a CS. I'm going to get a P very soon. Exactly. Staccato is like, is it like Mira? A staccato is like a Mira. Does anybody know what a Mira iron is? That's what a staccato pistol is like. It's like a Mira. Would you agree with that? It's not a Ping. It's not a Callaway. Right. Okay. So anyway, staccato is only an hour away. If I'd gotten my plane flights right, I would have done the free tour. Okay, set up and aim. So the ones on the left, set up and aim, direction, path, and spot, they all kind of go together. Has everybody got that? And then on the right, you got launch, rotation, and dynamics. They kind of go together. Now, what's interesting is rotation. People think of that as only a directional vector, right? The face rotating. It's actually an angular speed. So when you have a player like Tiger who has a high rate of rotation, the face is closing very quickly, but that angular speed is adding what? Speed to the club head. When you start working in a counter rotation, where you're going, keeping it square, you have low rotation. The rotation is going the opposite direction of the entire system. So it's slowing the ball speed down, and it's also might be adding loft. So the ones on the right have a lot to do with not just mainly the distance and the speed, and the ones on the left have a lot to do with direction, but your spot has an influence on energy. Like if I hit it a little bit toward the toe, the face is going to twist open, but the ball speed is going to be a little bit less. Does that make sense? Okay. So aim is one of those dual agents. It's both a skill and it's a stroke fundamental, and one last little thing, it's a behavior. Aim is a behavior. See, most of you think aim is line on ball, line on putter. That's like looking through the sight picture and trying to. So this was my wife when she went to first shoot. She's got the rear post and the front post, and she's got these three little dots, and she's trying to find the target. And she goes, miss, 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 miss. Then we taught her the targeting process, that the plate is a circle. I gave her my red dot, so she's looking through a television screen, which is square. So we said, put the square over the circle, and then you'll see a little red dot. Once you see the red dot, pull a trigger. Then she goes plank, 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 and she loves it. She loves it. She's addicted because she got 6 in a row, and that's all she wants to do is go shoot plates. Okay? Now, aim. Aim, I'm going to write this down because I don't have a slide on it. There's an aiming process. And it's not looking only at the sight picture of the line on the ball and the line on the putter. It is. You have to acquire the target. You have to know where the target is when you're not even looking at it. You have to have a target. Now that target could be a picture. It could be a picture of a curved path of the ball, a straight line, or the whole thing. But you have to have a target acquisition. Then what you do is, so when I see a target with a pistol, I just present the firearm to the target. Everybody see this? That's all I do. I just put it there. I'm not even aiming yet. Okay, I'm just presenting the firearm to the target. Same thing here. You walk in. See, this is the footprint of this putter is a letter D. Can you see that? It's the letter D. Like if you looked at the footprint of it, it's a D. Okay, if you looked at a Newport or Answer, it's a rectangle. Right? If you look at like one of these Scotty Camera Futura thingamajig, it's a spaceship. right? The footprint, right? So, and the footprint includes not only the head shape, but the hosel design, because that places the shaft axis. But you come in here, I've got my target, and I put the letter D down in my stance. I build my stance or my tripod around the putter footprint, my left foot, my right foot. Looks like a tripod to me. Now I start targeting and aiming the sight picture. So where do I start the sight picture? Last, or second to last. Every player is a little bit different. So I acquire my target. I can see the picture. As I walk in, I'm not even looking at my target, but I know where it is. I put the footprint, build my stance, take my grip. Now I start looking again. Now the sight picture of the line on the ball and the line on the putt. It's just like shooting a pistol. You don't go around the woods looking for a rabbit by looking through your sight picture. But the sight picture is the same problem in golf as it is in guns. Because some of us are right eye, some of us are left eye, some of us are cross dominant, some of us like dots on putters, some of us like nothing, some of us like 3 lines on top, 3 lines on back, 3 lines on the ball. Everybody's confused with their sight picture in putting just like they are with their guns. But that's not aiming. The sight picture by itself is not the only part of the aiming process. So you can get pretty good at aiming with nothing on the ball, nothing on the putter, if you start running the targeting and aiming process in your brain. We can get people pointing that way instead of pointing that way. That makes sense? The vast majority of your aim. All right, cool. I might get this on time. Okay, now the putting stroke. Remember we had the 6 fundamentals? Well, they all have their own little rabbit holes. Okay? And I've been down every single one of those rabbit holes, and here I am in Austin, Texas. Okay? It's almost like one of those red pill, blue pill situations. Okay? But I actually mapped this out for my flat stick instructors. So how deep do you want to go is the question, right? I would stay on the surface. I would look at their aim. I would look at their start direction as a grandpa's gun. That makes sense? How well are they transferring energy from putter to ball? But yeah, every putting stroke looks like a snowflake. Yes? Every stroke within the same player is a snowflake. That's the interesting thing. So for you guys that are trying to repeat, good luck. Develop a pattern, but this expectation of trying to produce perfect zeros, it's not going to happen maybe once in a while, but you're just going down rabbit holes. That's what you're doing. Okay, so I think it's very important to measure. I like to use Sam Putt Lab indoors. I like to use Capto outdoors. There's a new product coming out called Vertec. That's going to be a little device that you can put in the putter, the weight port of the putter, and that data can be seen on an iPad or an iPhone, but also be transferred into the Sam Putt Lab. So that was Sam Putt Lab's big issue. It's good indoors, but never good outdoors, and now they've partnered. But you got to measure stroke. You can't see all this stuff. You can't tell whether you can see the path's going right, but how much? A degree, 2 degrees. It's very difficult to see. Okay, I find the 3D add-on to allow the player to see their stroke. So I'd rather show them this than the report. Remember the report? I don't like to show the player that. I like to show the player this. Like show them the movie of their stroke. Does that make sense? Because if they get caught in the numbers, they're going to be like, man, I suck. That's what they're going to feel like. They're going to feel like, oh, I'm no good. If you're always showing them that, it's not healthy. Okay, and then obviously this is the GBD system. I stopped using 3D with my players because I found myself losing clients when I used this technology. It's because it was like data overboard. Does that make sense? But it really helped me as a coach. 3D actually helped my eye more than it helped my students. And you see a big push right now in 3D, 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 3D. Yeah, but most of you, if you don't even know, everybody do this for me. 3 right angles with your hand. Okay, now rotate it 90 degrees to the right. Okay, so that would be the reference frame for GBD. So if you don't know your movements along X, go ahead, come on, along X, along Y, and along Z. Okay, now around X, around Y, and around Z. If you don't understand that, you got no business being in 3D. So write that down. David Orr said that. Like if you don't understand that basic, you got no chance. So save your money. I know it sounds like a cool idea. Oh, I'm going to teach putting in 3D. No, you're not. If you don't know what sway is and thrust is and lift is, and you don't know about bend and tilt and turn, you got no business in that arena. I'm just trying to save you some money. Maybe educate yourself, though. That would be a good thing. I really firmly believe in that. Okay, now your putter. Does it matter? Well, I would say probably 1/3 of you it's going to matter immediately. And I'm going to say, and I'm just using general terms, another third, it's going to matter down the road. So at least 2/3 of you, it's probably going to matter. Okay? Maybe to 1/3 of you, it might not matter because your pattern's so bad it doesn't matter. Okay? Or your pattern's so tight, but you're so skillful it doesn't matter how you stand, how you grip it. It just doesn't matter. Brad Faxon can putt with anything. Anything, literally. Okay, now, the problem with putter fitting. Here's the question. Putter helping or hurting? That is the question with putter fitting. Problem with putter fitting is if you went to 10 different putter fitters, you're going to get 10 different putters. Is that not a problem? Yes, it's a problem. Because the vast majority of people that are putter fitting are using putter fitting as a mechanism to sell. I don't sell any putters. Did you hear what I just said? I give my fitting recommendations, like you can get this, and so-and-so and so-and-so makes that. I give them my putter specs based on how I fit. But if you went to 10 different putter fitters, you're going to have 10 different putters, and I would say 9 out of those 10 putter fitters are trying to sell you something. I don't think that should be what putter fitting is about. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. Okay. The 3 most important basic variables of putter fitting is length, lie, and loft. Do you have the ability to cut a putter down or add length? Do you have the ability to bend the lie? Okay? Or bend the loft? Okay? Those are the 3 basics. Especially for your junior golfers, make sure I use a wrist to floor measurement as a starting point. So let's say the junior, from the wrist to floor is like 32 inches. Okay? And how many golf companies make a 32-inch putter?
Not stock.
Not stock. So we got to get a 33 and cut it down and put a smaller grip on it because it's got a little pause. Right? So we got to put a Super Stroke PT 1.0 on there, right? 32 inches. Now, most of us grew up in the era, oh my gosh, we cut the putter down, it's going to be too light. Oh my gosh, it's going to be too light because we cut it down. These putters are so overweight right now, you don't have to worry about weight. I got kids, so the overall weight of a putter has changed every 10 years. Okay? It used to be 485. 485 was average overall weight back in the 80s. Ping Answer, 8802. Okay? But it's changed throughout the years. Okay? And yeah, I think it's 20 grams every 10 years. So the average putter weight right now is like 545 grams or 535 grams. Putters are too heavy. Because why? If I go from a 340 head to a 360 head, how many grams of weight have I added? 340 to 360, how many grams of weight have I added? 20. Here, write it down. So you're going to keep track of the math. Okay? So I've gone from 340 to 360 in the head. How much weight have I added at the head? Well, if the head's heavier, now what do I got to make the other end heavier? So I go from let's say a 60-gram grip to an 85-gram grip. Or 80 grams, 60 to 80. How many grams have we added now? 20 more. So we've added 20 at which end? 20 at which end? But now we're 40 grams overweight. But the putter's still balanced. You with me? So now, you know what I think I might do? I think I'm going to get one of those shafts, those stability shaft thingy-majiggies. And that's 20 grams heavier, let's just say, right? So now I've added how many grams? So I've added 60 grams to the radius of the stroke. So now the radius, which is the distance of the club plus the length of my arms and my spine bend, right? The radius, I got to get that radius that's now heavier, I got to get it going where? Back, and then I got to change directions going this way. Putters are overweight, so when you're fitting a junior golfer, don't worry about it, because I got so many junior golfers that are coming in. My overall putter weight's 504 grams. I got kids coming in there at 565 grams, because they're, they got the 40s in the head, and they got the big rubber grips, and then it's a disaster. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to get off the putter fitting because I could go really off on a tangent on that. So length flying loft. Okay, so wrist to floor. Kids got longer arms, might have to go shorter. Depends on how bent they are, how bent the arms are. But your basic variables on the left. Everybody always argues about the fine-tuning variables on the right, how much toe hang you had, and etc. All right, now generating speed. Okay. I'm coming in hot. We're going to be done in a minute. Okay. I'm going to generate speed. What am I generating the speed with? Very good. What era did I put in? Yeah. Because the green speed was what? Slow. And the balls were soft. So I couldn't putt with my shoulders back in the day. I had to generate speed from my hands. Okay, now, usually the hands just don't move themselves. You might get some movement from the forearms. Yes? Starting to see that? I can start putting with my lead arm in the backswing, my trail arm in the through swing. Do you see how they're independent? You see how I'm putting with both arms? Does it look like which arm in the backswing?
Right.
Here, keep saying that louder.
Left, right.
Louder.
Left, right.
Yeah, putting like you're in the Army, right? Yeah. But learning to coordinate both arms. So now I'm going to coordinate both arms, yes? Does that look like both arms are coordinated? Now I'm going to move up into the shoulder girdle and try to get the shoulder girdle to coordinate both shoulders and both arms, both hands. Everybody see that? So the coordination is the secret. Write that down. The coordination of how that movement pattern is the real secret to producing that Sam Putt Lab number. And that's where my area, yes, hang on one second, questions at the end. Don't lose the question. Okay, so how much your torso is turning and tilting, that ratio is a big deal. Okay, we're coming in hot. Okay, so what moves the putter? That's what moves it in the takeaway, what moves it in the transition. It's called a prime mover. Yep, 3 minutes. I'm coming in hot, man. Hey, air traffic control says I'm good. Okay, so it's how does the player generate speed versus how much energy are they transferring? So some players do have the stroke is long enough, the stroke is fast enough, and they're coming up short. Well, it's because they might not be effectively transferring that energy from putter to ball or launching that putt with the correct launch angle. Makes sense? So sometimes the stroke is long enough. Makes sense? Okay. All right. Did I pull it? Did I push it or hit it straight? Grandpa's gun. It's kind of what it looks like. Everybody got that? So Grandpa's gun, if I tend to aim right and hit it left of my aim, it is called a pull bias. If I tend to push it to the right of my aim, that's a push bias, and then it would be wonderful if everybody just would aim straight and hit it straight. Okay, we're coming in hot. All right, so the directional bias has an influence on the angle at which you make putts to the slope. I could talk for days on this one. I'm going to kind of move through that, but I just want to let you know that it's face angle, not handedness, of why we like right to left or left to right putts. It has to do with face rotation and directional bias. Okay, there you go. This is the big picture. I could literally end right here. I think I might end right here. Okay. So can everybody see the curved line into the hole, right? Everybody see the curved line? How many of you see that when you're putting? Can everybody see the straight line out to the right and the cup to the right of the hole? How many see that? Okay, how many people set up their stroke relative to that straight line? Very good. So that's called aiming your stroke. How many of you see this whole picture when you putt? Do you want to know what the mental skill is for this? It's not visual imagery. It's not thinking. It's association. Write that down, because Dr. Rick's going to talk about that. Is that particular putt that's breaking, it's 25 feet right to left, breaking 2.5 feet, that putt that I see right there goes with this stroke right here. That's called association. So I'm going to leave you on this. Ready? Association. What letter is this? What letter is this? How many people say A? Now, if I did this, it would definitely be an A, yes? But there is always that one person that sees this as an upside down view, a V, and that's their problem. No, I'm serious. I'm going to leave you with this. That is their problem. When we are kids, we just look at that and we associate that as the letter A, whether it looks like this or like that. Got it? The reason why you struggle with putting is you're not associating the right things, connecting things together. You're too busy complaining, wrestling, fighting, guiding, steering, quitting. That's what you're doing, and that's why you struggle with putting. All right, I want to thank you very much for having me. I know that we didn't stay perfectly in order, that we went on some rides and we came back, but I hope it was a pleasure to see you, and it was a pleasure to speak in front of you. So thank you for listening. We got one question real quick. What was your question?
In general, for training, would you endorse a belly putter as something that would be good to kind of feel the technique?
Yeah, but there's multiple techniques. So if you're talking about a centered, level, square, fixed radius, it'd be okay. But Alex Noren couldn't putt that way because he's lead arm. He locks it with his right hand, so the belly putter's not doing him any good. So one of the things that might help you, and just kind of marinate on this, there's multiple patterns based off of how I generate speed. There isn't the best way. So just think about that. So for a centered, level, square, released stroke, the answer to your question would be yes, but not everybody putts that way. Okay? All right, Scott, we ready? Yes, sir. All right, thank you very much, everybody.